Okay, today we're talking about the sales pipeline or the sales funnel. Those words are often used interchangeably, so it's important to know what the sales pipeline and the sales funnel is. This is one of the core concepts in all of selling. Whenever you sell anything, in fact, even in things that aren't involved in sales, you're going to have to know what this is and what this concept is. It's important because it helps you organize the sales process. It helps you look at individual deals, and therefore it helps you move individual deals along closer to close. If you use one of these things to organize what you're selling and what you're trying to accomplish, you will be massively more productive than if you do not. So it's a key concept to understand in selling. And it's called a funnel. One of the reasons it's called a funnel is because it takes this shape, which I'll explain in a little bit here. But this shape is important because it speaks to how you talk to the customer and how the customer progresses through your sales process. Not everyone, of course, buys your product. So what happens to those customers along the way, and where are you potentially losing customers or doing well? So what is it? It's a funnel that shows sales progress. It shows where, from a customer that starts as just a random target that you've never talked to before, and then progresses all the way down to being a paying customer. That's what it is. It's built of tiers that are measurable. These tiers, which we'll talk through in a moment, shouldn't be guesses. These are measurable things about a client's progress through the sales process that you can measure. The more measurable, the better. And we'll talk about how you make those up and how you decide what those are for your business. But that's what these things are. They're tiers that measure progress. And essentially what this allows you to do is it allows you to track any individual deal. You should be able to grab any individual account or prospect and say, that's where this deal is along in the pipeline. And also it allows you to show a collective dashboard. So you can say, in general, here's what's happening amongst hundreds of active potential customers. So the dashboard is important for reporting and for other reasons, which we'll talk about in a little bit. It also establishes another really important concept to understand, which is called sales ratios. Ratios we'll get into sort of near the end of the video. What that's talking about is, how many people are at each step, and what does that mean for my business? You can create ratios based on where people are in the process, how far along during the sales process they are. Also, because now you have this dashboard and you have sort of a visual representation of what's happening inside of your sales process, you can diagnose problems and recommend solutions for those problems. So you can say, I'll show you examples of how you can clearly diagnose when part of your sales process is broken or failing. And then also, it'll help you, it'll drive reporting, planning, and production decisions, because you'll be able to see into the future once you get good at this. You can say, I will have a much higher probability of saying that I'm going to close X number of deals in the near future, and therefore I better tell my production people to ramp it up, or my planning, I need to hire a new employee or a customer service rep or any of that stuff. That's all driven out of this process. The better you get at this, the better planning and business decisions you'll make associated with sales. And also the better you'll get at reporting things to your investors and to people in your company, and guessing at how much revenue you're going to generate. So super important concept. I can't stress enough how core the sales funnel and pipeline is to the sales process. It's probably the single most important thing you will learn about organizing, and also one of the easiest things to do about organizing your sales process. So let's talk through the funnel that we have on the board right now, and in the second part of this video, we'll give you some examples and some specifics around this. So this is a typical funnel, and what I've done is there's no right way to do this. Funnels can be done in many, many ways, and you have to figure out how to match your sales criteria and your progress criteria of your own business to the funnel. Funnels will very rarely look alike. So what we're looking at here is, this is one example of sort of a generalized funnel structure, and this is another example of a generalized funnel structure. You'll notice they start with the market on top, meaning everybody that you could possibly sell to. It doesn't even mean whether you've talked to this customer or identified that customer by name. You should have a guess based on your studies of market sizing. You may have segmented those markets, and you may have different types of opportunities out there. So you could have more than one pipeline inside of a company, or one master pipeline to show your company's progress. But the market represents any pre-qualified customer, any customer that you haven't talked to yet. You don't even know what they want, you don't even know whether they like your product. They're just out there. Now, you're going to move to a tier that in here is called qualified, and what that means is you've talked to them and had some interaction with them. Below that would be defined, meaning now I know exactly what they want, what product they want over what period of time. Developed might mean you've talked to everyone in the company, you've done presentations, you know all the key decision makers. Selected means they've moved toward a decision and they've verbally told you, hey, this is what we want to do. It's by no means the end. And then closed means you've signed a contract. And again, you're going to hand some of this off to your production team or whoever. It depends if it's a product or a piece of software or what have you. But there's always a handoff to production or shipping. And then also you have to get paid. Sometimes customers won't pay you, so that's part of the process. So this is a very generalized piece. Here's another general look at it. I made initial contact with the customer, I had a meeting with the customer, I did a presentation, I did a proposal, they approved the process, I got them contracted, I billed them, they paid me. So you'll notice these are just tiers. Really important to define what these tiers mean in relation to your business exactly. Does it mean that you issued a document? Does it mean that you had a conversation with a specific person in the company? You have to put specific definitions around these and don't make them guesses or probabilities because salespeople will have very different ideas of how likely a deal is to close. Instead, if you put actual qualified things next to this, I had an online demo. I actually conducted an online demo. They told me flat out what product they want. They saw all of my products, so they know what product I want. I spoke with all of the decision makers in the company. I know who they are and I can name them and I've had conversations with them. Not I know who they are and yeah, I have to have a meeting with them, but specifically that you've executed actual actions, documents, measurable things allow you to take a lot of the guesswork out of how far along these companies are. So then what do these numbers mean? In the middle, these numbers mean that there's 2,000 in my market and maybe only 100 of those I ever talk to. 40 of those I ever do a presentation to. 25 get a proposal. 5 say yes, they want it. 4 actually sign a contract and only 3 pay me. That's the core idea behind a sales pipeline, is that you may start with 100 conversations and only 3 of them end up closing. Those numbers and the relationship between those numbers about how companies are progressing through your pipeline is what establishes ratios. And this is a super important concept around the sales pipeline, which is, there are lots of things, by the way, that flow out of the pipeline, and we'll talk about in the second video. But one of the most important is these ratios. What these ratios mean is how good am I at moving companies along through my sales process. You wouldn't know this if you didn't track this stuff, and if you didn't set these defined levels, you have no way to measure it. So in this case, we've got 100 people at initial contact. So out of 2,000, that means I've hit 5% of the market. 40 people get a meeting. So 40 out of 100 means that 40% of the people I talk to ask for a second meeting. That's pretty good. So how many get a presentation? 25, or a proposal. 25 out of 40, a presentation. 25 out of 40, 63% of the people that talk to me ask for a proposal. And then of the people that ask for a proposal, only 20% actually get it approved. And then of the 5 that are approved, 4 out of 5 I actually close. So 80%. So if I get them to this approval process, it's a really high probability they're going to close. And then 4 out of 5, 80% have the contract, and then 3 pay me. So I'm not very good at collections. So basically these ratios can tell you what you're good at and what you're not good at. Where are you losing a lot of accounts? And then where are you very good at transitioning? Arguably 80%, I'm really good at closing the deal once I get approval, and I'm actually really good at getting a proposal out there. And you can start to measure sort of where your process is either succeeding or breaking down. That's the whole point of a sales pipeline, and we'll talk about more specifics in the second video.